We're okay with that.
We're okay with that. All right.
Exactly.
We'll call the meeting to order. We'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mrs. Gibbs.
Yes.
We're all here tonight. Moving right along to the approval of the minutes of the March 17th meeting. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Were there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Abstain?
Dr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes, motion carried. Commendations and communications.
You have no accommodations or communications tonight. We do have one report and some public participation.
All right.
I'm going to turn it over to Margie, and she's going to share us a little bit of what's going on there at Dan Emmett.
Right. And Margie has Megan Soul, our wonderful librarian, which this would never take place if it weren't for Megan. So I can just click the corner of it. Okay. So we started something new this year in our library time. She is our librarian, as I mentioned, so she also is very good at PowerPoints. Oops, see?
The bottom will get you with STEM, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going up here. Yeah, if you could, yeah, can I do the arrow there on you, Bill?
Yeah, go down, you'll get the arrow, or I can.
Yeah, if you want to do the arrow. Do you got arrow?
There you can. If you double,
Okay, do you want me to do
if you
that?
click here, then you
Okay.
can click. Just, yeah, left click first, and you'll get the arrows that come
All
on.
right, I did right. I don't have fancy stuff like this. Okay, so what we have done is, Megan does have her typical 45-minute library time, but then we got together because I had this real thought, and got her involved, and she loved it and took off with it. So it was the power of the STEM and teamwork at our new STEM lab. So this year marks an exciting milestone for Dan Emmett as we introduced our first ever STEM lab. So it's a hands-on learning experience, engages all K through 5 students in science, technology, engineering, and math, while fostering teamwork and collaboration, which is something sometimes is needed. So, the overview, it's once a month, so it takes place in the library from the months of October through March. It's led by wonderful Mrs. Soul and classroom teachers. They participate in it too. It's very hands-on. It's student engagement. They do experiments. They collaborate. They have challenges. They focus on teamwork. And it encourages them to work together but problem solve and communicate their creativity. So that's the next, there we go. So why STEM matters? Because of the critical thinking, problem solving. We have students with challenges to analyze problems, develop solutions, and we're encouraging resilience, adaptation, and learning. It's hands-on, it reinforces the scientific concepts. We really got together with 5th grade to say, how else can we help you K through 4, since 5th grade is into the science part. We're hoping that they retain this, going hands-on experiences so that it does transfer, builds their schemata as they grow grade level to grade level. Like I said, we really need a lot of teamwork and collaboration with our kiddos, not just with STEMs, but a lot of different things. Teamwork's hard for them to get, especially in the beginning, but you've seen a lot of growth by March, by the time March comes around. So it encourages students to share their ideas and work together. It's creative, it's innovative, provides opportunities for students to think outside their box. It develops their skills to apply to real world problems. Some of them question that at times, but then they understand not everything's going to be there for you. You're going to have to try. So preparation for the future builds foundational skills for careers in that STEM-related field and develops confidence and in the scientific exploration and discovery. We also took our STEM money that each building was given in the elementary. We purchased a lot of STEM activities that are going to enhance and extend what we're doing. So I'm gonna let you go ahead with some of your different things. I will look at.
The first thing we did was the egg drop challenge, which my kids did when they were in elementary school and they loved it. So our kids completely took off with it. They were all given the same amount of materials, and out of the 65 groups, they worked in groups of like 3 or 4. Only 4 eggs broke. So we went out to the playground, we climbed on top of the big green slide, and we dropped them, and only 4 broke. So they were they did very well with that one. And they've asked to do it again next year, but I'll have to
But I'm pulling up some news now.
tweak our
Right,
supplies.
Bill, I'm telling you, I'm not
You want me to
doing
do
well
it?
there. Yes, I do. It's testing month, not week, month. So see, hey, he's pulling up news too.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. This one was, I gave them the option of not using their heads to create static electricity, and they all went with, they wanted to do with their heads.
Of course.
We gave them, I showed them on our chairs in there and their shirts, but they had to make paper snowflakes, which we learned how to fold them and cut them, which that hand-eye coordination was real coming through with this one. And then they had to see if they could make all of their paper snowflakes float, but they had to make them, we did them out of coffee filters, printer paper, and construction paper. And then there was a few of them that got them all 3 to stick to their balloons at the same time, but they really, really focused on how much they could get their hair to stand up at the end of it. This one was probably one of their favorites. I reinforced it in library. We did lots of things on habitats and like how birds and what nature uses to help them in their own little ways. And birds was one they really liked. So we talked about how they use everything that they can find outside. They don't get glue, they don't get tape. So I didn't give them glue and tape. And they had to build a nest inside of a cup and see how many eggs it would hold. We used bouncy balls. But the highest one they got was 42. And it did turn into what was the highest class that they got? And they had like 3 or 4 chances to see if they could get them to hold more and more and more. So this one was probably their favorite. And then we reached out to the teachers and the kids to get some quotes on STEM. A lot of them came back with, it was really a good opportunity. They liked working together, which was a big thing. And then the teacher quote that was one of my favorites was from Mrs. Farr. Her class actually wanted to take the leftover supplies and do it again for inside recess. So they took a bunch of the extras and they made more eggs, they did more nests, and kind of did their own little thing with it to take up some inside recess time, because we had 3 weeks of rain there for a while. So, but the kids, and they keep asking, like, why aren't we doing it right now? I'm like, guys, we have state testing right now. We don't have time right now. But they all have come up with ideas they want to do next year, and they really, really loved it. They took off with it, and it's fun. We get to step away from the paper pencil and see them explore things, which was a really cool thing to see them work together. So we are thrilled that we offered this to them, and we cannot wait to do it again until next year. We've already started to get things and come up with plans and all that, and yeah, it really got them well-rounded in this critical thinking and their teamwork, which was cool to see as it evolved, how they got more and more of, remember last time we did this, so we're gonna try this, and to see them grow, and that was a cool kind of uphill battle.
That's it.
Yeah.
Did you find that it was fairly easy to get the supplies that you needed and the directions of how to go about doing all of these activities?
Yeah, we did a lot of I did a lot of Googling of things, and I went to the 5th grade teachers and we looked at the 5th grade standards for science and kind of tried to figure out what we could do to back up what they were currently learning. And except for the egg drop, I just really wanted to do that with them.
That would be great.
Yeah, they were really into that. But yeah, it was pretty simple. There could definitely be some more resources, I feel like. It was a lot of extra.
We
what
ordered
we find,
quite a bit.
Yeah, we had to
Yeah.
order quite a bit of stuff. But
That's what I thought.
But we should be good for next year because we bought quite a bit with the money.
Oh, yeah, kits and.
Yeah. So we have kits that what we're gonna do is do extensions, so then they can sign out the kits that are similar like to what she's done. So they can take that back to the classroom. Quite a bit. Spent all my money, didn't I?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm good at that.
Did like K and 1 kids do the same kind of activities as 4 and 5?
Yes, we tweaked them a little bit. Like I gave them, we did marshmallow towers one time. So they had way more examples to go off of and we helped them more than when the older kids did more of the critical thinking part of it. And then with the egg drops for them, I kind of helped like pre-make a little bit of it. And then they got to figure out what would keep their egg the most safe, which all kindergarten and first grade eggs survived. So they were very excited their eggs survived over the older kids. But yeah, we kind of I did more, I guess, prep work for K1.
It looks like you did it in the library. Is that
Yes.
where you're kind of working it out
Yep.
in the library then?
Yeah.
I know space is always an issue. I mean, are you putting things on the stage or where are you saving some of this?
Cabinets,
We have
stage,
cabinet,
Marky's
there's
office.
some at my house in a tote, there's like
Every room cream.
Yeah, we have a closet that's
Yes.
been,
I
stem
took
closet, like
over.
I kind of like get things in there.
Good. Any
But
other
it's
questions?
fun. We want to kind of get a little more involved next year. This is kind of trial and then we kind of grow from it.
So could you see yourself going more than once a month?
Yes,
Like,
that's
so
our goal.
that's kind of the hope,
That's the
Yeah.
goal.
and trying to
Get
fit
it in a
library
couple
time into all
times.
that too, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
April or Mike or Andrew. So we'll move on to board items for discussion. And we have no items at this time. Correct?
That's correct.
All right. And additions and deletions to the agenda?
We did have some additions and deletions since we did this board preview in, Tuesday of last week. We had a little bit more time in there, so one deletion is we had some additional special education updates that we were gonna put on there. We never quite got a chance to really peruse through them. We've been approving so many board policies, we thought, you know what, let's just wait.
You did read those 54 pages.
So we decided to delete that for this month. A couple facility requests there, and we did, it is the hiring season, and we've got some jobs posted a little sooner than maybe traditional. So we actually have hired a couple staff members and wanted to get their name down on ink so they knew we have the right people. So those are additions and deletions to the agenda.
Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Just a couple things here. I'll just do a really quick district update, just to kind of, a couple things I just wanted to bring to your attention. Our district newsletter did go out. I have some copies here if anybody needed them. We shared a little bit of this in our March meeting, but it did finally go out, and we've had some pretty positive feedback. And you'll see that Dan Emmett was even in this particular spotlight on their safe play and smoother parking areas. So I don't know, Margie, if you want to share just a little bit about that. I mean, from where it was to where it is today,
It's totally revamped. So we are out back now and we actually have a loop that the bus can even go around. So we've set up 4 cones. We have walkie-talkies. If it's nice, the kids are out waiting and we have like an onlooker. Usually it's Kyle Kleinman. He's down there and he calls the cars because we know them so well now and we've got it going where we're down to 12 minutes instead of 30. A few issues of just with the construction stuff, but it's safe. The kids are safer. We know who they're going. The parents get to see us. It's a good communication piece. And then we keep our bussers out front. Those that walk, they go to the playground and parents pick them up. So teachers of 2 grades, one comes outside to help at car loop, the other goes to the playground for pickups. Then we have people for bus line that goes out front. So it's smooth. walkie-talkies help, go really well.
Margie and her staff really have done a nice job. I mean, they never had that before. So anytime you make a change, it has a bit of growing pains. And while we lessened some congestion there, some people felt like, well, now I could quickly move in out front. We had to really train them.
Yeah.
And
And it was more so difficult this year because of all the construction, because we parked on our front lawn for several months, and we were blocked off. So then they thought when we got to move back, maybe they could start making our front lawn their parking lot. And so we had to stop that. We put some fences up. It lasted maybe 12 hours. But it really has worked out well. They're all in the routine, and they know this is just the process. But I still try to get them to come like 3:15. It's usually 2:15, 2:20. They start, and I put it in the newsletter. Please, because it does help that Mansfield when it's opened. Then they start complaining that we're blocking, which we are. But I tried to get them to come later. But it's not working.
it is a challenge. It's not
It
just
is.
their building. For
Yeah.
whatever reason, there are parents who either want to get to the front of the line and will show up an hour early, and you get 2 or 3 or 4 cars in areas that really can't accommodate large off-street parking. It can be a challenge, but thanks for
But
your
it's
efforts.
worked well. Now they're getting in it, like I said, 12, 15 minutes max. So safer for everyone.
Just another quick update, and thank you for those who were able to attend our first community facility meeting. We had a little over 80 folks participate, and many of you were able to do so. I put this up here primarily because those 2 links have now been added to the facility advisory page on the district website. The first one is that short little 3-minute, 35-second video, which is really kind of I think, a neat snapshot of all the work that's been done. The second link there really takes you to the hour-plus presentation that we had on that particular night. So feel free to take a look at that. We had to go back and kind of revise and edit just to make things work in a proper way. But it was well attended, and we're also going to produce a question and answer document. So we had about 34 questions that came out of the conversation. In other words, they got their QR code and they were doing their questions. When we got to the end of the meeting, and we knew we had gone a little bit longer, about 1 hour and 15, we were only going to take about 15 minutes worth of questions. And we were reading them, quite frankly, off of the thought exchange. Certainly we didn't get down through all of them. So we'll go back and we'll make sure we post those in a way that we can answer those questions, because there are probably going to be questions others have. At the end of the day, we'll need to, as a board, again, just gather that information and then make a next step determination how we go from there. Spring concerts, it's a wonderful time of the year. There's lots of things going on. I will say Little Women was a marvelous musical that our kids did. There was a piece of that a little bit today. We're just blessed with some really talented kids. And these are the concerts that are upcoming. We've already had a number that have concluded and have already had theirs. And yeah, you can see starting Thursday. Friday is Pops and Tops, high school orchestra concert, just a whole bunch of things. And then throw in there all the academic things that are coming down the month of May. There's all kinds of athletics going on. So if you find it's beautifully sunny out and you've got nothing to do, we've got a place for you. Okay? We did at our senior citizens luncheon today, we were able to kind of fill up the high school gymnasium with artwork from our kids. I bet there were close to 30 pieces of art that people were able to take a look at. They are going to have an art exhibit, and these are the seniors that are being highlighted, starting May 5th through May 16th. It will be down at the Shoremeyer Gallery on the first floor of MBNU. They do it there every year. They'll kind of have an official kind of a time here from 1 to 5, or I'm sorry, from 6 to 7, a reception on May 9th. That's a chance where the the seniors will be there, and you can tell them how that picture made you feel, right? Real quickly, I thought I'd just show this. This is some of the exhibits that they had. It's a 2-minute video. Some of the work that our kids are producing in there. All right, if you're not relaxed by now or some sort of a Zen moment, then you probably won't be, but it is pretty incredible. Some of the things they do, and some of those are actually going to be at state level competition. So just thought I'd give you a quick little preview of that. Outdoor Ed is coming up. Our 5th graders are heading to Camp Ohio Heartland. You see the dates up there. Dan Emmett will be heading out on Monday, May 12th. It's going to be a beautiful sunny day, no rain. Hopefully it's that way for all 3 days, but still a really neat opportunity that we get to go out there. Mentioned this today at the Senior Citizen, so our choral students are at state competition this weekend, and so I know best of luck to them as they kind of go through that process. So
where's that being held?
It's going to be at Watkins Memorial.
Oh.
And I think their time is 2:40 is when they go on. It's a combination of not only singing certain pieces that they were able to select, but then there's sight reading that has to go with it. So it's a pretty detailed kind of a process. So anyway, that's kind of the district update there. Just for board consideration, as May is really a busy month, our regularly scheduled meeting is May 19th. It is a senior awards night. I mean, it may be something that I don't know if we'll find a right date to have nothing going on. So we may just find ourselves leaving it there, but I thought I would just put that up there if anybody was really wanting. It's a 7 o'clock, we're at 6 o'clock. It may be, generally though with our May board meeting, we like to do our retirees, kind of a retiree kind of a thing. And oftentimes we'll take that over to Twin Oak just because it's a little bigger and we can have a little bit more sharing. So maybe put that in the back of your mind as we think about if that's the right date or should we make a change. I took this off the agenda originally, put it here so you could take a look at the final document of the negotiated agreement. We'll vote on that then when we come back, whether it's a special session in the next couple weeks or our May board meeting. Okay. And then the last thing here, just an informational items, there was one special education update. It was a correction in the model, educational model policy, so you can take a look at that. Items recommended for board approval tonight in this section are all those wonderful board policies that we've had for our second reading, and thank you for getting a chance to take a look at that. I had some good questions that came our way, and hopefully we were able to answer those. And again, we prescribe to Neola. There's two policy-making groups in the state. It's OSBA or Neola, and both of them do really a good job of making sure that what's in there is what's supposed to be in there. And so put those in there for your consideration. And that's it for this section tonight.
Okay. I would entertain a motion for all of the board policy updates.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Any additional questions or comments?
I think I've asked all mine.
They were good questions.
Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye?
Abstain.
And Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Okay, motion carried. Moving on to curriculum instruction. Dr. Bennett.
I'm just going to briefly talk about the second article. And by the way, I don't know, Dan, people want to leave.
You're welcome to stay. We don't make you stay.
You're welcome to stay, but you're welcome.
I'm just shocked how fast you guys are going.
You just jinxed us.
Now it's time we ask you to leave.
Nope.
No, you get to stay. Thank you. Whatever
Thank you.
I
wish.
know it's awkward, you don't know when you can sneak out.
Yeah, but you did go quickly.
Okay, the second article is about humanizing the past with historical fiction. And the article's really considering the middle grades, grades 4 through 8. And they're using cross-disciplinary units in English and history. And she points out by revealing and humanizing stories from the past, the historical fiction genre fosters curiosity, it inspires empathy, it stimulates critical thinking, and it helps develop understanding of complex issues. And they experience history through a character's perspective, and that helps them connect to the past events, to their own lives and the present day. So they also had some, if you scroll down, they had some really great questions to ask students that teachers might want to ask. How does the historical setting shape the main character's experience and decisions, and how would the story be different the present day, and what real world connections can you make between this historical story and issues we see today? So trying to have the children really connect with the story and place themselves as characters in the novel, even was one suggestion. And then there are also actions and activities for them that, if you scroll on down a little further, there are suggested activities for historical fiction. They can write a series of diary entries from the perspective of the character in the book, write letters between two characters, write a newspaper article. If the book involves travel, create a map tracing a character's journey with key historical events. So I just thought they were really clever activities, and then they also even recommended some novels, historical fiction novels, that are good for this age group. So I thought that was pretty neat. I love historical fiction, so and I think it's great to get kids reading again, because we don't have reading enough.
You know, if we only had someone from the Ohio Historical Museum here too.
So, thank you. Any questions?
Just a few items for board approval tonight in this section. 2 College Credit Plus partnership agreements. The first is Columbus State. They kind of do theirs through the DocuSign process. And so, you know, we haven't approved it yet, so I don't necessarily want to sign it yet, but when you sign it, it puts all the information in. So you probably saw maybe a few blanks in that one that we'll work towards. The other one was with MBNU. It's a long-standing kind of a partnership there, and they do a nice job really of laying out kind of the process. We're continuing to really work with our teachers at the high school to look at more and more opportunities where we can do it in-house versus always sending it out. More and more students are taking advantage of College Credit Plus, and how do you blame them in the day and age we live? But the challenge is they often have to leave and you know, not be taught inside the school setting and all of that. So, but anyway, 2 memorandums of understanding for your approval, and Kathy takes care of all of this and works with all of the colleges to kind of pull all this together.
I would entertain a motion for the 2 CCP
So moved.
partnerships. Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Any questions? Thank you, Kathy, for your work.
I would say one other thing with this, the College Credit Plus at the legislative level did really streamline things, and they developed a cost set that you know, it used to be kind of the Wild West. You know, they would charge this, they would charge this, so on and so forth. They've kind of brought all that under an umbrella, and so, you know, we're going to pay the same at Compass State that we might at Mount Vernon. So it's really been a more streamlined process.
Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Okay, motion carried. Moving on to fiscal services. Judy?
Of course, this is for the the end of the March closing, and the first page obviously always is, as always, is the reconciliation. You can see our cash there. We have the insurance fund and the other fund, general fund as well. All funds are included in that dollar amount there. And this is at this time of the year, at the end of March, we should be 75% either in or out, in and out. As you can see, our real estate taxes are in. All of them are in there, and we were a little over what we expected to collect. Line 1.05, the property tax allocation, that's the rollback from the state. We did get that in April. It's not showing up on there because we didn't have it by the end of March, but that also came in at what we thought. So the revenues are all pretty close to exactly what we thought it would be. On the expenditures, again, we're a little bit high on the salaries because of that science and reading payments that we had to make. The supplies continue to come in a little higher, and you can see at the bottom the total expenditures are about 78, so they're a little bit high. Next month is the next forecast, so we'll be making adjustments obviously for that. As you, I'm sure, know, with all the legislative, I'm going to steal Aunt Mary's thunder, but all of the proposals out there, every one we get, the treasurers are all like, okay, what do we do? So Forecast 5 that I work with is almost literally every day has a webinar to do simulations based on what if this passes, what if this passes. So we know how to do that. The question that they ask, and we're all asking ourselves, and the board needs to think about it, is what do you do for your May forecast? If the legislation isn't done yet, do we just do the forecast as if everything is just as it is now? Or do we, do one of the scenarios? And again, that's another, almost month away, but we'll have to decide what to do with that. If the legislature decides they're going to do the 30% of the excess cash, well, that's not going to change this year, but the forecast is going to look different going forward. So those are just questions that we'll talk about at the May meeting with the forecast. And I can do different scenarios too. And the board will pass something and it'll go to the state. Obviously, if we need to revise it, it's not set in stone. But we'll all have a good idea about what that looks like. And I was telling Bill, interestingly, the Auditor of State has a new program. It's called Financial Health Indicators for Schools. It's been in place for counties and cities for quite a while, and they decided to do it for schools. And it's 17 indicators that show what they think your financial health would be, whether you have a red, which is not good, yellow, which is not so good, or green, which is you're doing fine. So once this our audit is finished, that information will be plugged in and we can go in and see. The funny part was that the indicators were all things that we all think were good. Healthy cash balances. Well, one of the bills that's in the legislature is, no, it's too healthy. We're going to take some away. So at the end of the training, everybody was very quiet. It was a Zoom call, but I'm sure everybody was thinking. So people did ask. They said, well, what about the 30%? And the poor guy from the auditor's office, not the auditor, but he was like, well, when we started doing this, we didn't know about that 30%. So we're just telling you that's what these are going to be. And it's going to be based on the past. There's not going to be, but they'll be able to help for districts that are starting to get into trouble. Like if they start to see deficit spending and those kinds of things. And they'll be posted. The districts will have, I think there were going to be 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time before they were made public in case we had questions or we wanted to talk about it. So, but that was an interesting thing today to hear all that. And they're like, yeah, we don't want to see your balances go up and down. We should have enough there to do, 2 months, 3 months maybe worth of expenses. We're all like, well, we're being told we're not supposed to do that. So it'll be pretty interesting. But I learn a lot on those webinars for sure. And there's usually 50 or 60 other treasurers on there, so we're all.
Judy, today when they did the webinar, OSBA, they had OASBA treasurers, I assume as well, and they suggested that if you're going to allocate for boilers or roofing or whatever, just to make sure you're really transparent with the community.
Yeah.
And to start doing that process now.
For moving money to a capital projects.
If you
Yeah.
need to do that. So
And those are
it's not
things
like
I
you're
think
trying
we're
to
gonna be
hide
talking-
anything.
talking as a board, yeah.
But if you really have things planned to do, then, it's legitimate.
Yeah, it's tough. It puts us in a tough situation. We don't want to spend it if we don't need to spend it right now. On the other hand, we hate to lose it, so.
Well, at least they moved it from 25% to 30%.
Yeah. And we were at 34.
Right.
So that was what we were based on what they're looking at right now. So, and that was on last year's expenditures. This year's will be a little higher, so we may not be too far off on that. But what happens is the auditors just don't collect it. And they show, actually, from what they were telling us, they'll show as a credit on the tax bill. So, but we'll get a little less money. So this is the, obviously, this is the investment, the amount that we've gotten through the end of March for the investments. And then those are the balances you can see. If you scroll to the end of that report, Bill, you can see the total for all funds is the bottom line. You gotta go a little
All the
farther.
way down to 32.
Yeah, you gotta, no, not to 32. You gotta go down to probably about four more pages.
About 2.
Yep, there you go. So the fund balance, that matches the reconciliation there, you can see. But all of those pages that you saw, that's all the funds that we have that go together to make that dollar amount.
No small operation.
No, it's actually a big deal. I remember the first time I got a check when I was my first year as a treasurer. They were doing checks then from the auditor's office for like $3 million. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I can't do this. So anyway. And then we have one donation to Pleasant Street from the Gay Street Methodist Church, jacket closet items.
Thank you for that update. I would entertain a motion for approval of the donation.
So,
Thank you, Dr. Bennett.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Vigolidai. Any questions?
well, I thank Judy. I know that's a tremendous responsibility, so thank you for all you do to keep us.
I like it. Anyway, my daughter's getting her treasurer's license, so.
Oh, is she? She's wonderful.
I finally convinced her it's a
Pass
good
it
job.
on.
She has a really good job that she loves, but she thought it was a good idea, so.
Just a quick question, Judy. When does, in May, when do you have to actually turn that forecast in?
By the end of May.
The end of May.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I really think it might be to our interest to think about a special session or a work session between now and the end of May, where we can jump into a little bit of these conversations. We'll want to talk about, our facility advisory plan, to be able to have that focus time really to look at, our continued financial planning, which is going to be this work Judy's doing, and the facility conversations. I think those two topics could easily really set us on the right trajectory moving forward.
We have some big expenses coming up, like the gym floor, and so that's going to take a chunk of money.
Now, right now, and those are coming out of the PI fund at this point.
Those are coming out of PI, so we can make some adjustments to that and
Right.
preserve the PI fund and call those something different. But yeah, you're right. It'll be a great conversation, and David's willing to come back and spend some time with us. And he's actually becoming a bit more advocating in his work. He's met with Judy and I, and he sees the challenges that some of the legislative actions are bringing to his other districts as well. And so I even think you're going to see him perhaps do some testimony on the Senate floor and contacting representatives to really kind of share our story.
Would you call the roll, Judy?
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Golodine?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
And Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Motion carried. Bill, for that May meeting, is that something Jessica can send out so that we can establish that date? Or do you want us to
No,
throw
I think
some
we
dates out
ought to,
now?
I'll send you out a doodle poll,
Okay,
where we can, list a few days. I think
Okay.
we want to iron out a few days for David, because
okay,
he'll have a lot to say on both these topics.
Right.
And we may have lots of questions. So we'll send out a doodle poll here yet this week.
okay,
And see
thank
if we
you.
can't come up with the date. I'm thinking maybe the first 2 weeks in May versus waiting to
So it gets
towards
busy.
the end
Yeah.
would be helpful.
Second week would be better than the first.
Okay. Duly noted.
Thank you. All right, business services, Ms. Regola Dye.
Very brief,
Okay, oh, goodness.
because I'm sure everybody's been watching and listening. At the State House, the House passed the state operating budget for 26-27, and the Senate will look at this version after the break and then make their changes. SB 7 would require all school districts to instruct children in grades K through 12 on chronic substance use. SB 50 changes the age requirements for work hours for children under 16. And I looked at that further, and I don't care for that at all. But hopefully they will keep it from May through September, the hours on the children. HB 191 would require all school districts to have a base salary for teachers at $50,000. And that's all I have for tonight, but hopefully as time goes on, I'll get a little more involved again.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to recommended items for board approval.
Items for board approval, feels like some of these items we brought up in board updates, but at the same time, we bring them up because some of them have contracts. So we do have a contract with LACA for an EMIS audit, and we have a lot of hands that touch our EMIS information, and we want to make sure that we're touching it all in the right ways and receiving all the funds that we should be receiving and reporting the things we should be reporting. So we're going to walk through a whole audit process with our EMIS accounting. You have a number of facility requests there, from the Dogwood Blossoms Chorus all the way down to Sting Soccer. Our software we're still kind of figuring out some of our software issues. So Jessica ended up kind of going in and handwriting some numbers in there. And so we'll get that kind of squared away. Item 3 is an interesting item. The Brewer Garrett Company is a company we contacted. So they needed to do a maintenance plan agreement. And this maintenance plan agreement has to be on Twin Oak Elementary. Believe it or not, back in 2005 or 6, when that building was built, there was a requirement by the district back then that you had to get under a maintenance plan agreement. In other words, they would tell you, you know, year 2 you do this, year 4 you do this, you're, you know, kind of really setting up a maintenance schedule. Apparently back then, we said we would get on it, and we just never quite found our way to getting on it. So when the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission was walking through our data, they said, hey, oh, by the way, we still see that Twin Oak is still an open book, so to speak.
22 years later.
And so we did say, you know, this is 20 years late. However, they said before they can even take the next step and move forward with us in another capacity, they just had to close the books on this. So you do see a contract there for about $8,200 to the Brewer Garrett Company, who will develop a plan that is 20 years in the rears, but it's one of those things you kind of have to do. And then finally, number 4 here is revised agreement for an auto repair. This has been really kind of a long time working its way through, but one of our tech vehicles accidentally clipped another vehicle in the parking lot, and instead of really working it through the insurance channels, we wanted to do that on our own and not go to the deductible and all of that stuff. That bill came slightly higher than what we had originally talked about. I'm not thinking it was a whole lot, was it, Judy?
Yeah, it was about $100 higher.
Yeah, but
It was
because,
900 altogether, I think, and it ended up being just a little over 1,000. But by the time he got the parts in, and it was a local body shop, so.
so we brought you 900 once before,
All right,
but
you've already approved that.
we needed to go ahead and make sure it was accurate now that it came through. So those 4 items for your approval tonight.
I would entertain a motion for the board items under business services.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Any additional questions? Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Motion carried. Okay, student services.
No items for information in this section tonight. We are approving through a resolution that we have to approve through the Ohio Department of Education Workforce, their new special education model policies. And so I've listed the policies there in item 1 and a board resolution saying we are accepting those policies as we move forward. And then item 3 is an agreement to work with 2, I'll call them third-party school psychologists. We currently have 2 school psychologists, but they're maxed out, and so we oftentimes have to go out to third-party folks who can do a variety of things. And so we've got 2 groups that we work with, and we call them, we let them know when we need their assistance, and those are listed there for you. We actually have 2 this year, one because it's just nice to have somebody we can call if one is busy, but 2, we're not exactly sure where we sit with the Knox County ESC and their preschool psych. They lost a preschool psych recently, and so they're not exactly real sure where they're going to be able to find. They're really hard to find. And so if they end up moving some of that responsibility back to us, then we've got to have the capacity to have those ETRs or, IEPs put in place. So we're just approving 2 third-party groups at our discretion. Those 3 items for your approval tonight.
I would entertain a motion for student services.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Any additional questions? Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Motion carried. Moving on to personnel, certificated licensed staff.
Just a couple items for information. 2 parental leave of absences have been requested and granted per the contract. And so, we certainly wish them the best as they kind of go through that stage in life and take a little time. Section B, recommended items for board approval. We have a number of items in this section. 2 retirements, and one of them you saw part of her work with students, Indiana Badger, and she has been a longtime art teacher and will be very, very missed. Tammy Serrata is also retiring. We may find ourselves having a few more retirements coming down the very soon pipeline here. If you are aware or not aware, STRS just approved the lowering of the age to 32 years moving forward. So some of those folks who are right on the bubble, as of July 1, you can retire with full benefits at 32 years. So whether that's an enticement for some or not, I don't know, but that may grow. We have 1 resignation. We have 1 stipend for our newer sequential model for education training. Substitute teacher, a couple summer school credit flex teachers, those who are doing online work, and a supplemental contract for History Day advisor. And then finally in this section, item 2, we've got continuing contracts. We have an internal transfer of Nate Hunt, and we have those 2 teachers we mentioned to you earlier. That has been an addition. One will be a 5th grade teacher at East, graduating from The Ohio State University, and the other is coming from MBNU in 7th grade English Language Arts.
I would entertain a motion for the personnel certificated.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regoladai.
I'll second.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. Any additional questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, would you call the roll?
Mr. Golodai.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
And Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes. Motion carried. Classified staff.
No items for information tonight. A number of items for board approval. The first is employment section. Ginny Kilkenny Shively she has retired. She is not doing a retire rehire, as that's not eligible as part of the OPSI contract, but she did reapply for that position and got it. And so she'll come in as a new employee at step 2, and so glad to have Ginny back. Item 2 is the summer work crew. They're ready to go, and we still have a month of school left, but starting on, June 1st, these folks will be getting right at it. So that's your summer work crew. Some substitute employment. Again, it's always great to have subs. We did have 1 late resignation come in. Ann Phillips has been a long-time secretary at Wigan Street, and she, they will absolutely miss her there. I know her plan is to spend a little bit more time with those grandchildren, and I think that's what we all like to do as we get closer to that age, right?
You all aspire to.
So those 4 items for your approval.
I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Any questions? Comments? Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Mr. Golodai.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes. Okay, motion carried. Board member comments. Ms. Regola-Dye, would you like to start tonight?
Sure. It's wonderful to be back and to see all of my friends in education. I'd like to congratulate all of the children and teachers for the wonderful accolades they have received over this year. And we're looking forward to the choir having a good resounding performance this weekend. And of course, we wish everybody a good, healthy end of the school year. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Bennett?
I would just say ditto, that's just everything I wanted to say. The only other thing is, today it was mentioned on this webinar that we should start telling parents that within 90 days, the cell phone policy will probably pass, which will ban cell phones in K-12, according to the governor's office. So we need to be, getting that message out so that parents and students have plenty of them to say. That's coming. So that's not good news for some people, but.
It's a little frustrating only for the fact that they gave us the ability to weigh in with our community.
And now they're
Took it
taking
away.
And we made some decisions. I think our policy decisions
Fair.
were right down the middle. And so, they talk about local control and then they take local control back. And so, unfortunately, I have it's a tough one to police. It really is. So we'll see. I think it's going to take up a lot of administrators' time just to try to police this. And I think we were doing just fine the way we were.
Well, I think it's going to be not well received by a lot.
Yeah, no.
Especially kids, but we need to prepare people.
Mr. Workman?
Thank you. I know it's a busy time of year. I'd like to congratulate those students in activities and athletics and different events. Finished strong a month ago. Finish line's almost here. I would also like to comment about the community facilities meeting. I thought that was very well attended by the public. I was happy to see the number of folks there. Mr. Cedar and the group that were there, I thought did a very good job of laying out what we've done over the last 9 or 10 months and the transparency in that. Very much appreciate that. Talked to a few people afterwards and seemed to get a very good response of what they were hearing. There's always going to be questions, but I thought it was very well done. So thank you.
And he took mine.
Ditto, so.
I feel your pain. I too wanted to thank everybody that came out for that meeting. I think Mr. Cedar and the panel up on stage, which also included a couple of our building principals. I thought they did a really nice job. I was trying to get a read of the room, and the vibe I was getting from the middle to the back of the room was there was a lot of positive head shaking. Obviously, we still don't know how all of this is going to turn out and what the eventual public support is going to be, but I like the path that we're on, and we appear to be taking the right steps. Also want to thank my colleagues that have been serving on this committee too, and the time that you both have put into that, along with our superintendent.
A great learning experience.
So I just appreciate the time and the efforts that you two have put in on that. Thanks.
And I just hope, just to rebound off of what both of you have said, I just hope the public understands the need, and if they want to get into our buildings, please call. The buildings are open and we'd love to have a tour so that you can see the needs. The administrators and the teachers do a phenomenal job with what we have, but there's so much more out there that can be done and can be shared that we can do for our students. So that's the bottom line. So it's exciting to be a part of things. K-2 music programs have been phenomenal. So they have been so much fun to watch those littles up on stage do their little antics and have a good time. That's always a show in itself, a part of the show. So thank you to the music teachers for doing all of that. Good luck in the spring activities. There's so much going on. As Bill alluded to earlier, you shouldn't be bored this time of year because there's plenty to do. Plenty to do, so.
I will say I followed up on a previous meeting request by a community member relative to swim club, and I got a chance to talk with Justin and some others, and there's an absolute need to have a feeder system in our swim program. With that being said, there are challenges. I know currently we swim at Kenyon's Pool. There's a considerable cost there for us to do that. So finding facilities, finding someone who's willing to sponsor that. I think we're reaching out a little bit to Nick at the Y again. I know they welcomed us having it. It's been tough because you get advisors who want to be the club advisors and then they, either move on or life changes. And so we just not quite had the numbers. So we would have to really seek out the numbers, the facility. There are no real middle school swim teams, none in our league, and really none per se, even in the greater Columbus area. They're all clubs. And you're part of a swim club. So New Albany has a middle school club, but it's part of a little bit more of a private organization. So I think the need is there. If we can find the right people and the resources, I think we'd like to continue to take the next step there.
Can I say something else? I really appreciate the weekly newspaper that we all get,
Yes.
where they feature our kids and, seeing some of our students who are just breaking records and doing so well, like Lucy, and that's been neat.
Yeah.
So
Good.
I'm glad for the community to see that.
Anybody else? Judy, anything you would like to add tonight?
I'm just very proud of the district for doing all the things we're doing on the facilities. I think it's courageous. And I think it would be easy for us to say, everything's fine, this is hard, we have to talk people into it. I mean, it would be, and people do that sometimes, but I think the district realizes that our kids deserve nicer buildings and for safety reasons and for educational reasons. And I just like to commend the board and Bill and the whole community basically for going forward with this and whatever decision they make. I tell Bill all the time, nobody's gonna do this again for years.
That's right.
So we have to do it right.
That's right.
And so that's why we're taking our time, and we've taken a lot of time so far to work on it.
100 years.
Exactly. I mean,
Yes.
this is not a small thing. This is a big thing. And I think with our communications group that we have, and David Conley, and all the support that we have so far in the district, I think it will be successful, but it's hard work. And I've watched other districts do it, and it's not for the faint of heart. But you have to be bold and you have to believe in it. Yeah.
The OFCC saying that we were first in line.
Yeah.
That was an eye opener.
Yeah.
Well, this was a dream,
Yes.
right? And it came to fruition because people
Got behind it.
got behind it, and it was bold, like you
Yes.
said.
Yes.
And we are reaping the benefits for our children.
Exactly.
And I still, even that night we had our community, somebody brought up the field house and, it was very complimentary, but just needed reminded that that wasn't taxpayer money.
It was thought differently.
Oh, it was. I heard differently. And so, making sure we're transparent and we're getting out accurate information
Right.
in a timely manner is really going to be important if the board decides to move forward.
And did you mention and tell everyone that your presentation of the facility, isn't that online? Can't they?
It is, yes. It's online now. So you can go on to our district on the website page and go to Facility Advisory Committee. You'll have all of the PowerPoints, but then on the right-hand side, you'll have those two that is the video of our community presentation. And to parlay what you had said, if the board decides to move forward and we kind of move into a levy opportunity, we absolutely will have nights where we allow people to come in and tour our buildings, because if you were part of the tours, you probably looked at the outside and had this wonderful affection for these buildings and their age and the history. And it wasn't really until you went inside that you realized, oh, I still love it, but it does have shortcomings. And it's when you see that firsthand that you realize that maybe we can do a little bit better.
Right.
Anyway, that's our story.
All right.
Sticking to it.
I would entertain a motion for adjournment. Thank you, Mr. Ward. Ms. Regola-Dye, will you second? Thank you.
Mr. Ward?
Yeah.
Mr. Goldeye?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Yes. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
I made it.